Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Bhavna Nair. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. US President-elect Donald Trump threatens 100% tariff on BRICS nations if they undercut US dollar. Syrian president vows to defeat the terrorists after rebels sweep into Aleppo. Russia conducts strikes in support of President Assad. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi attends All India Conference of Director Generals or Inspector Generals of Police in Bhubaneswar, discusses various subjects on policing and security. All ISKCON temples and communities around the world to organize special prayers for all religious minorities in Bangladesh. And rain slashed Tamil Nadu, Puducherry as cyclonic storm Fengal makes landfall. Weather Office warns of continuous rainfall for the next 2 to 3 days. In sports and World Chess Championship, India's D. Gukesh will square off against Chinese counterpart Ding Liren. Series tied at 2.5 each after Game 5. News in detail now. US President-elect Donald Trump warned BRICS countries against replacing the US dollar, threatening them with 100% tariffs. Trump also sought a commitment from these countries to not creating a new BRICS currency nor support any other currency. Trump made these remarks in his social media platform, Truth Social. Meanwhile, Donald Trump on Saturday added new names to his team, nominating New York real estate developer Charles Kushner as US ambassador to France. Kushner, who is the father of Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, was also a member in the first term of Trump administration. In 2004, Kushner was sentenced for 2 years after pleading guilty of 18 counts, including tax evasion and making illegal campaign donations. However, he was pardoned by Trump during his first term as president in 2020. Donald Trump nominated Kash Patel as director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Announcing his nomination, Trump wrote in a post on Truth Social that Kash is a brilliant lawyer, investigator, and America's first fighter who has spent his career exposing corruption, defending justice, and protecting the American people. In Ireland, Prime Minister Simon Harris and Deputy Prime Minister Michael Martin celebrated on Saturday as their parliamentary seats were declared during counting after Friday's general election. Figures from a tally by Virgin Media News showed Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil were on 20.5% and 21.9% in first preference votes, with left-wing Sinn Féin on 19.1%. The two centre-right parties looked set to return to power, but will likely need at least one smaller partner to secure a majority. A clear outline of final seat numbers will emerge by Sunday. Violent clashes erupted on Saturday outside Georgia's parliament between police and demonstrators, protesting the government's decision to delay European Union membership talks amid a post-election crisis. Thousands of people gathered in Georgia's capital, Tbilisi, on Saturday for a third night of protests that saw dozens arrested. More than 100 people have been arrested in the last 2 days. The unrest in the region begins after Prime Minister's announcement on Thursday that Georgia would not seek accession talks with the EU until 2028 ignited a furious reaction from the opposition. Chaotic scenes unfolded for hours as police chased defiant protesters through the streets of central Tbilisi, beating them and making arrests. Georgian presidents say that she will not step down until last month's contested parliamentary elections are rerun, claiming it her constitutional duty to bring the country down the European integration path. The comments came as thousands of people gathered in Georgia's capital, Tbilisi, for a third night of protests against the government's decision to postpone European Union membership talks until 2028.
It's my duty. I've been elected for that, to serve this country. I'm elected also to preserve the Constitution, which clearly in its Article 78 says that we have to go down the European Euro integration path, and that's what has to be preserved. That is why the people are going out on the streets.
Moving on, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad said on Saturday that his country could defeat all terrorists and their backers after rebels seized dozens of towns and overran most of Syria's second city of Aleppo. This is being viewed as the biggest challenge to President Bashar al-Assad in years. United States is monitoring the situation and has blamed Assad's reliance on Russia and Iran for loss of Aleppo control. More in this report.
The situation in Syria appears to be in a very volatile state. Rebel forces in Syria have taken control of most of the country's second largest city, Aleppo. This is according to the UK-based monitoring group Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, SOHR. The SOHR reports that over 300 people, including more than 20 civilians, have been killed since the offensive started on Wednesday. Meanwhile, the Syrian military said that dozens of its troops had been killed during an insurgent attack in northwestern Syria, and that rebels had managed to enter large parts of Aleppo city, forcing the army to redeploy. The Syrian military statement was the first public acknowledgement by the army that insurgents led by the Islamist Hayat Tahrir al-Sham had entered the government-held city of Aleppo in a surprise attack that began earlier this week. This was the first such attack by rebels in 8 years. On Friday, Russia had urged the Syrian government to restore constitutional order in the Aleppo region as soon as possible. However, seeing the situation worsen, Russia launched airstrikes in parts of Aleppo overnight on Saturday. So let's try to understand this conflict. The Kurdish-dominated Syrian Defense Forces controls most of northeastern Syria. It regularly clashes with Arab tribes that accuse the group of discrimination. Turkey and its proxies also control areas along the northern border and have ramped up attacks on Kurdish forces. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad now controls about 70% of Syria's territory. Turkish troops have been involved in ground operations against the Islamic State since 2016 and have launched attacks against armed Kurdish groups in Syria. When the civil war began in 2011, there were 4 main factions of fighting groups throughout the country. They are Kurdish forces, ISIS, other oppositions such as Jaish al-Fatah and the Assad regime. The ongoing violence against civilians has been condemned by the Arab League, the European Union, the United States and other countries. Nearly 5.5 million Syrian refugees live in the 5 countries neighboring Syria: Turkey, Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq and Egypt. Germany is the largest non-neighboring host country with more than 850,000 Syrian refugees. Over the years, the conflict has evolved into a complex war involving jihadists and foreign powers. While the Syrian army has regained control of most of the territory it lost earlier in the war, the area where jihadists and their allies are based has been under a truce since 2020. Bureau Report, DD India.
Meanwhile, the foreign ministers of Iran and Russia voiced support for Syria on Saturday. Iran's Abbas Araghchi told Russia's Sergei Lavrov in a phone call that the attacks were part of an Israeli-US plan to destabilize the region. Iran's allies in the region have suffered a series of blows at the hands of Israel as Gaza conflict has expanded through the West Asia. The ministers agreed on the need to intensify joint efforts aimed at stabilizing the situation in Syria. Earlier on Saturday, Russia's Lavrov spoke on the matter with his Turkish counterpart Hakan Fidan. While Turkish security officials have said on Thursday that Ankara had prevented operations which opposition groups wanted to organize in order to avoid further tensions in the region. Followers of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, ISKCON, worldwide will organize special prayers for the safety and security of all religious minorities in Bangladesh. The ISKCON made this appeal in response to widespread protest in Bangladesh following the arrest of monk Chinmay Krishna Das in a sedition case. He was denied bail on Tuesday. The protests, primarily by Hindu community members, have occurred across various locations in Bangladesh, including Dhaka and Chattogram. It's time to take a break. Still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Delhi Aam Aadmi MLA Naresh Balyan arrested in extortion case. World AIDS Day being observed with the theme Take the Right Path, My Health, My Right. Brussels kicked off the Christmas season with a spectacular light show.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Bhavna Nair. Moving on, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Saturday discussed various security-related issues with top police officials and chiefs of different security agencies. Attending the All India Director Generals and Inspector Generals of Police conference being held in Bhubaneswar, the Prime Minister also discussed various operational and infrastructural related issues faced by the police. The DGPs and IGPs of different states and union territories presented a roadmap of their respective states and UTs for tackling challenges related to crime control, law and order management. Home Minister Amit Shah, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and Union Home Secretary Gobind Mohan were also in attendance. The Delhi Police Crime Branch on Saturday arrested Aam Aadmi Party leader and member of Legislative Assembly Naresh Balyan in connection with an alleged extortion case. According to officials, the Aam Aadmi Party MLA was arrested after an investigation revealed an audio clip of a conversation between Balyan and notorious gangster Kapil Sangwan. The conversation allegedly involved discussions about the collection of ransom money from businessmen. Further investigation of the case is in progress. Cyclonic storm Fengal wreaked havoc across Tamil Nadu and Puducherry. After it made landfall on late Saturday night, unleashing heavy rains that have caused severe waterlogging and disrupted transportation across Chennai and nearby areas. At least 55 flights were cancelled, while suburban train services between Chennai Beach and Velachery temporarily suspended. Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin reviewed relief measures at the Disaster Management Control Room in Chennai. The India's Meteorological Department on Saturday issued a red alert for heavy rainfall in districts including Chengalpattu, Kanchipuram, Vellore and Puducherry, urging residents to stay vigilant and adhere to official advisories. India is celebrating its Border Security Forces Raising Day today. The force was officially formed on December 1, 1965 in the aftermath of the Indo-Pakistani War in 1965. The need for a specialized force to guard India's borders became evident due to consistent threat from across the borders, and the BSF was created to fulfill this significant role. Let's now take a look at other stories making news today. The joint military exercise Harimau Shakti 2024 between India and Malaysia will take place in Bentong Camp, Kuala Lumpur from December 2 to 15. The exercise aims to enhance cooperation and interoperability between the Indian and Malaysian armies for sub-conventional operations under a UN mandate. This initiative underscores the commitment of both nations to global peacekeeping and security efforts. The Rajasthan cabinet has approved the anti-conversion bill to tackle forced religious conversions. The bill proposes 1 to 5 years of imprisonment for offenders and prohibits conversions through fraud, force or undue influence. It will be tabled in the state legislature during the upcoming session for final approval. The Indian Navy is gearing up for a Grand Navy Day celebration at Puri Beach on December 4th. Over 15 warships have anchored off the coast as part of the preparations, showcasing the Navy's operational strength. President Draupadi Murmu will inaugurate the event, which will feature over 20 demonstrations highlighting naval capabilities. The celebration promises a spectacular display of India's maritime prowess along the scenic shoreline. On to the sports updates now. Defending World Chess Champion Ding Liren of China and India challenger D. Gukesh will square off in Game 6 World Chess Championship 2024 on Sunday. On Saturday, the duo played out a draw in Game 5 of the two leave the players level at 2.5 to 2.5. The fifth game of the best of 14 match being played in Singapore's Resorts World Sentosa lasted 40 moves before the players agreed a draw. Ding, playing the black pieces, admitted afterwards that he had missed a chance after a mistake by Gukesh, allowing the challenger to escape and force the draw. Ding and Gukesh have each won a game with 3 others drawn. On to badminton now. India's male shuttler Lakshya Sen will face 4-seeded Jason Tay of Singapore in the men's single final at Syed Modi International Tournament, which is being played in Lucknow. The 2022 Commonwealth Games gold medalist and 2021 World Championship bronze medalist Lakshya defeated Shogo Ogawa in the semi-final on Saturday. Two-time Olympic medalist and former world number 2 PV Sindhu will face China's Wu Luoyu today in women's single final. Sindhu defeated compatriot Unnati Huda in the semi-finals in the straight sets on Saturday. Sindhu is now 1 win away from her 3rd title at the Syed Modi Badminton Championship, having won in 2017 and 2022. World AIDS Day is observed on December 1st each year. This year's theme, Take the Rights Path, My Health, My Right, highlights the importance of healthcare as a basic right. But how does HIV, the virus that causes AIDS, actually enter the body, and what happens when it does? What challenges do those living with HIV face, and can they ever truly overcome this disease? Today, we unravel the answers, how lives can be saved, improved and protected.
The silent attacker, known as HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, spreads in ways many don't fully understand. Most commonly, it passes through unsafe sexual contact, but it can also be transmitted via infected blood, shared needles, or from mother to a child during childbirth or breastfeeding. Yet, despite widespread myths, HIV does not spread through casual contact like touching, hugging, or sharing meals. When HIV enters the body, its mission is stealthy but devastating. The virus targets the body's immune system, specifically the CD4 cells, also known as the helper T cells. These are the body's frontline defense against infections. Once inside, the virus inserts its genetic material into the CD4 cell's nucleus, effectively hijacking the cell to replicate itself. Over time, this viral army grows silently, often without causing immediate symptoms. Years can pass before the real damage begins. Gradually, HIV destroys the immune system, leaving the body vulnerable to opportunistic infections and diseases. This is the critical stage when HIV progresses to AIDS, or acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Without treatment, AIDS severely diminishes the body's ability to fight even minor illnesses, often leading to fatal outcomes. But this is not a hopeless fight. Antiretroviral therapy, ART. These life-saving medications suppress the virus, preventing it from replicating further and allowing the immune system to rebuild. ART, when taken consistently and correctly, can prevent the progression from HIV to AIDS. ART is not just a treatment, it is a lifeline. Across the country, ART centers provide free medication, ensuring that cost is never a barrier to survival. However, the battle against HIV isn't just about the treatment, it's also about awareness and prevention. Early detection is critical. Regular testing, safe sexual practices, and caution with blood exposure are key to preventing HIV infection. The message is clear. HIV infection is not the end of life. With timely medication intervention and consistent treatment, people can live long and fulfilling lives. But it all begins with awareness, compassion, and taking the right steps towards prevention and care. This World AIDS Day, let's pledge to fight stigma, spread awareness, and ensure that everyone's right to health is protected. Because together, we can turn the tide against AIDS. Preeti Kaur for DD India.
Moving on, Brussels kicked off the Christmas season with a spectacular light show at its iconic Grand Place this weekend with the lighting of the Christmas tree and a performance by choirs. The city hopes to surpass last year's figure of 4 million visitors, according to local media. The show will carry on through December and end of January 5, 2025. India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati has recently launched Waves, entering the field of OTT platform. Waves provide a complete infotainment ecosystem to digital media and OTT audiences. If you also want to great content for free, then download Waves today. That's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news at its breaks here on DD India. I'm your host Bhavna Nair from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.